As a data engineer or data analyst, one of the things you will frequently work on is databases. And obviously, this is because everything you need is stored on there. How do you perform CRUD operation on these DBs is very important, as the type of query you write plays an important role in determining the speed and efficiency of your database. There are a lot of tools out there that helps you write efficient and optimized queries, but one of the top tools is dbForge for SQL Server. There are similar versions of this tool that are from MySQL, Postgres, and Oracle, but in this video, we'll be sticking and focusing solely on dbForge for SQL Server. Let's dive into this tool and let me show you what I'm talking about. To get dbForge installed on your machine, it's as simple as ABC. All you just have to do is go to the website, click on the download and install. As simple as that, the 3 steps. Now let's check how that looks like. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go to the browser, and on your browser, I'm going to just search for maybe just devat dbForge, or you search for dbForge Studio, whichever one works fine. Okay, so if you prefer this guy, then you're good to go. Or if you go to your browser again and just search for dbForge, just close this. Just search for dbForge. If you search for this, you're good to go as well. Both of them links to the same thing. Okay, so I'll just stick to the first one and select the dbForge Studio. Here you have the dbForge Studio, and you just need to click on download now. You'll be redirected to the page where you are going to see the fully featured Enterprise Edition, and you can click on the trial version and you will see that all the features that you have in SSMS are easily accessible with so much more additional features. And for the enterprise trial, you have everything for enterprise level operations. Okay, I'll just select this and get started with that, which is the enterprise trial. So if you just download that, it asks you to log in. So I'll just do the login in the background. Okay, so I already have an account. I'll just click on sign in, and I'll just sign in with my username and password. Okay, now after signing in, you see something like this, which shows you the dbForge Studio downloads, and this changed to download trial to download. Now this gives you access to the enterprise trial. So let's download this and see how that looks like. Now the download is here, and boom, that's done. Yeah, so I'll just click on this and open file to install it, and you can tell my system is not very fast. So it's fine. I mean, on an average system, the application works just perfectly well. So I'll just click on install and then next, and all of this will be associated with it. I'll just select all of that and click on next. Now generate images for the assembly, which is the recommended one. I'll just do that. We're good to go, and the installation progresses. So by the way, my system is still an average system, so hey, it's pretty fast. So it's not like you're going to get bogged down with some heavy space eating solution, but you're good to go. Now the installation is done, and on the UI you can see dbForge Studio for SQL Server. All I just need to do is double click on this. I mean, I can just double click on that while this is still in progress. It's done already. Yeah, so the dbForge, even though it's still running in the background, but you have the dbForge installed and it's ready to go. I think the next thing is just like perfecting the installation, generating some of the images, so you don't have to worry so much about that. If you are very patient, you can just install this and wait for everything to be done. If not, you can just, once the first round of the installation is done, you are free to continue using it. Now, for best practices, it's best to just wait for the installation to be done. Okay, here you just have to connect to your SQL server. So I've just clicked on the server that you have already. I have this as my local server, and the authentication method is going to be Windows authentication, and you can test the connection. Beautiful, the connection is done, and I click on connect. And here you see my already installed DB if I have one. If not, you just automatically see empty, and you can easily just go to the data pump and yeah, you can go to the administration and restore a DB, a working DB to your machine. Okay, and that's it. Let's get started with the SQL development and the rest of the features. Okay, good. So we have the master model, MSDB, TempDB. If you've been familiar with SQL Server, MS SQL, you would know that there's something called SSMS, which is the SQL Server Management Studio. But this particular application gives you the same functionalities out of the box that you have in SSMS, with additional functionalities that are built on top of it. So we are going to explore some of these things in about 7 different areas of these functionalities. We're going to start with the SQL development part, then we go into the administration part, data pump, data analysis, data design, database sync, and even DevOps as well. So yeah, let's get started with each of these features and see how each of them compares to SSMS and where it's, by mile performs better than SSMS. We're going to see them in this video. So let's get started with that. So let's get our DB that we're going to be using our sample database, which is the AdventureWorks database. So I'll just go to my Edge browser, and I can download AdventureWorks. Download AdventureWorks 2022 on Google directly, and here I can see AdventureWorks sample databases. I'll just click on this, and you can just come in here. I'll just click on the AdventureWorks DW 2022 BAK, and that's the backup file for AdventureWorks DW 2022 version. So once this is downloaded, if you want to use the OLTP or the lightweight version, you are free to do so. I'll just click on this, and you can see the AdventureWorks DW 2022 version. Now, coming back here, I'll just go to the administration, and in the administration, I have access to the managed security, cyber security, where you talk about the user accounts and the permissions that are attached to each of them. And if you want to attach a particular DB that's currently on your system, you can easily do that, just like you would on SSMS or even if you are using Azure SQL or any other IDE. All these functionalities are inside this particular application without fail. So you have the copy database where you can copy existing database from where through the agent. You use the copy database to copy one DB to another DB. You have the profile server event, manage index fragmentation, generate scripts. Everything that is out of the box is there. So let's just stick to the restore version and continue with the video. All right, I'll click on this, and in the file section, I'll just select that. And this takes me directly into the backup section of this MS SQL. And even though we already have the SSMS SQL Server DW 2022 version downloaded, we need to move it to this directory so before we can restore it. So let's quickly do that. I'll go back here. I'll just copy this and go to downloads. Go to C drive, program files, and SQL Server, MS SQL Server, MS SQL. And then in the backup section, I'm going to just paste this here. So I have the AdventureWorks DW 2022 BAK file in here. Okay, now going back to my restore, I click on the restore. I'm going to be restoring from files, so I'll just click on here, and you can see AdventureWorks DW 2022 BAK, the BAK version. You can also use the .trn version, which is the transaction files, I believe. I'll just select that and click on OK. Now this is going to load the database for you, and you can see the database that is currently linked to that AdventureWorks DW 2023, right? So it's trying to restore to a particular DB in this case. So we are not restoring to any of this, so it's best to have a separate DB to do the restoration to. So let's create a simple DB here and call it I'll just create a new one and give it a name. Okay, I'll call this AdventureWorks DW 2022. Yeah, maybe update or something like that, if you like. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. Okay, AdventureWorks DW 2022. But just in case you're wondering, you can, maybe I'll just use ADV. Yeah, ADV Works DW 2022. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. You can change the name. So the good thing about this is you have the script, just in case you want to back this up or you want to replicate this without having to go through the UI. You can get the SQL script here, maybe back it up somewhere, put it in version control or whatever it is you want to do with it. This is fully supported. Even the Git versioning is also supported by default out of the box. Okay, so I'll just leave it there just in case you want to work with it or you need it, you want to use it for anything else. I'll just click on apply changes and this is going to create the DB for me. I'll just click on the local and click on refresh and you can see the ADV works DW 2022. Once that is done, I close this up and I go back to the restore. Okay, and then here I'm going to select the files again and then AdventureWorks DW, select that, and it's going to ask me which database I want to restore to. So the new one I just created is where I'm restoring to, right? Okay, and that's done. I'll just click on next. And if you want to have the logs and the bin and the data file in separate directory, you can just select here and choose the right directory. Or if you want to save them on some external hard drive, you can do that here. I'll leave it at that by default and click on next. So if there's any data in the existing DB, you can overwrite that with replace. But if not, you can just leave it. Recovery state is the restore with recovery. Okay, so I'm just going to click on restore. If everything goes fine, you see something like this. So it said this backup set hold a backup of a DB other than the existing one. So what we're going to do is overwrite the current situation, the current DB that is currently there. Okay, it's thinking we have some data in there. So I'm going to just overwrite this with replace. Okay. Then I'm going to restore and this is going to restore the DB automatically for me. So good. So the database is restored and the context is changed to master, and even though I have this in here, everything is restored successfully. Okay, here if you just drill this down into the tables and you can see all the tables in here populated correctly. Now let's start with the simple functionality test. Okay, how do we know that this particular database is working just fine and we can easily work with it? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is do the select star from dim account, and this IntelliSense automatically kicks in. And the good thing about the IntelliSense in this case is you can see the table columns and the data types, and including the data length, the primary keys, the foreign key, everything automatically, and you can even see the estimated row count. So you get the IntelliSense in something like SSMS, but with this you get the IntelliSense with the table properties of the tables you're working with, or even the views. Okay, so in this case I'll just run this and see what that looks like. So in the data, this is the text section. If you prefer the data only, you can select data only here, or the text only, or you can switch them however you want it. So I'll just select that. So which is good. So I can see the data as I wanted it. I'll just expand this again and move this up a little bit. And yeah, so you can see the dim account. So the next thing we want to do now is proceed and see some of the other functionalities that this application can provide us in place of SSMS, because by default this is my choice, and anytime I'm working with SQL Server I'm using dbForge. So let's continue with that and see some of the other functionalities that we can work with it, and some of the things that I use on a daily basis when I'm working with dbForge. Okay. All right, so now let's test some of the other functionalities out. So based on what we have here, we have this is the default, just taking that for a spin with the SQL. Now let's go to the next one, database design, which is all of this. You can do database design and you can link this DB to a source control. So let's say you want to connect this to GitHub, GitLab, or any other version control system. Easily you can just do that here, and you can just click on the repository. If you don't have one, you can create them into the working folder and the directory, and you'll be good to go. Once you link them, you can easily commit your code automatically without having to go outside of the system to copy paste your SQL script. That's a very good one, if you ask me. Now the next thing is the database synchronization. If you want to compare and synchronize the database schema, so let's go ahead. We already work with the database restore, and let's see if we can populate some of this data in here. So we have data pump here, which is having something called new data generation. New data generation is just like you are trying to create a Python script, or something like Faker to populate your DB. So instead of taking the time to download and write your script, write so many logic into the system. They have it inbuilt here, and you can easily just automatically generate new data depending on the structure of your table, and that will automatically populate it. Let's take it for a spin and see how that looks like. So in our data warehouse, I'm going to just come in here, and in my dim customer, I'll just copy this and create a new script from here to a new SQL window. Okay, so on this new SQL window, I'm just going to create a new table called dim customer data. Okay, I'll just call it dim customer data. So this is going to have dim customer data in the constraint. So I'll just delete the rest just to ignore the constraints. I'll just leave those as it is. Just run this again and see what that looks like. Okay. All right, so that query has been executed successfully. I'll just refresh this and I can see dim customer data, which is good. So now I can populate this. So if I check this out and say in my SQL, I'm checking dim customer data. All right, if I run this again, I can't see any data in here. So this is about how many columns? Maybe 18 or 20. Yeah, regardless of how many they are. So we just stick to that and let's see how that data generation looks like. So I just click on this and then click on next. And in this case, I'll be selecting the random seed by 1. I'll be setting null value to 10% of the rows, and I'll be increasing this to like 5,000. Okay, we can increase it to as many. If you prefer to truncate the table before the data generation, you have all the freedom to do so. I'll be doing that so we can test it out as well. Okay, and yeah, so if you look at what I have here, I have the dim customer data sitting here pretty nicely for me. And once I select this, I'll just check this box and it automatically generates the first 50 rows of this. So it's going to be generating 5,000 records, and you can see the sample data and how it looks like in this case. And that's good. So let's stick to that and see how the rest of the data goes through. So you have the minimum value as 0 and the maximum is 9999. All right, we'll be generating the random seed by 19, which is okay, and the value distribution is as that. Now if you prefer this customer key to be generated with some Python scripts, you can use this particular Python generator, which is using Ion Python script. You can use the same thing and generate the custom logic for generating your IDs here. Otherwise you can just stick to the integer. Also you can use any of these properties in here as your ID. I'll just stick to this integer so we can just proceed. Okay, now once that is done, I click on this green button to populate the data into the target database, and once that is done, I click on the execute the data. Yeah, I'll click on next. All right, so if you prefer to execute the DDL triggers, you can uncheck any of this, and if you have foreign key relationships you want to disable, you can do that in this case. All right, and if you want to also print the comment, you can do that. I'll just leave it at default. By the way, you have the transaction here. In the transaction, that means all or nothing, right? So if any of them fails during the transaction process, you can easily just exclude that from here. So that means all or nothing is activated, but I won't be doing that now. So I'll just select that and just click on next. So if you prefer to have a script executed before or after the execution of this data generation, you can write the embedded script here and you'll be good to go. Otherwise, you can also select the external script that is stored somewhere and you'll be good to go as well. But I won't be doing that. I'll just click on next. And so it says he's going to truncate the data before it populates it. So I'll just generate a new one and let's see how that looks like. So it's generating 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 and 5,000 records automatically populated into the DB. So let's see how that looks like. So I'll just select start from dim customer data. So if I do this, I'll just remove the DA here and execute that. and voila, you can see the data automatically generated, and the 10% is randomly scattered across board, so to simulate the synthetic data generation. And obviously we made sure that this is our primary key, so it's not going to be null. So let's count the number of records in this case. Count star, and you'll be surprised it's 5,000. Well, not surprised. Okay, now that is that about data generation. So you can generate for all of the data. All you have to do is just click on the check boxes and select the properties that are specific to them. And one thing I want to show you as well are the relationship and dependency. So let's say you have a foreign key relationship that is linked to a particular table. You want to generate data for the, let's say, the facts, but you have some dimension table. You can also click on that and it automatically generates data for them. So if I click on the dgen here and you select the, let's say, the fact in this case, let's select the fact. Where is the fact? So let's say we had fact finance. Fact finance is having date, key, organization, department, scenario, and account. If you select this, you can see the errors is here. So you have the parent tables, which are the dim tables here. So if you click on all of them, the error goes away and you're fine. Now this also leads to some of the dependencies that are also linked to this. So in this case, you have the organization, which has a currency here. So you need to also check in the currency into this. But there are some cyclic dependencies which you have to just disable the foreign key checks to be able to populate data correctly into this parent tables that are connected to the base table. In this case, the facts and the dimensions. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's continue. All right, so we've been able to go through the data generation. So let's check some of the other properties in this application. I think that is really good. Now on to my favorite part of this video, which is the database profiling. Where you do the query profiling, the performing queries and the queries that need optimization. Now this application also does that without stress. So I would like us to improve some of the queries, write some queries that are not so great, and improve them to see what changes we can make to them automatically. So with the simple query we had, we can easily just run select star from the customer data. Maybe I can increase this a little bit to make this more readable. And if I run this, I can see the result just below here. And this is the result. Okay, good. And yeah, so once we have this simple query, of course, simple queries by default, they don't require optimization. So let's make this a little bit more complex so we can increase the improve the query with the optimization suggestions. Okay, so let's start with the simple one, not so simple, of course. Let's start with the fact internet sales. So that will be the FIS. So let's try to connect with other join this with other tables. So we have the join dim date. So if you have dim date as the joining, because there's a foreign key between the two tables, it automatically recognizes them on the two foreign key and the primary key relationship. So that's a good thing and a value added by using this dbForge. I have product, okay, and with this also the same thing happens, and the final one is the dim customer. Okay, so we join the dim customer on the customer key as well. So if you run this, you can easily just have the results laid out pretty nicely, but we just want to select a couple of columns, not all of the columns. So I'm just going to have FIS.the sales amount. Okay, the sales amount, of course the date key is the dd.date key, and then the dp. English product name to get the product name from there, and finally the DC, this is the customer name, we get the last name. Okay, as simple as this. So this is what we want to fetch from the table, and that will give us about 4 columns. Okay, and this is good, so we are good to go on this. So the next thing we want to do is simply to now profile this and see what the performance implication of this simple, not so simple query looks like, and how we can improve this based on that. Now, one thing that is very important to note is, regardless of the size of the data in the table, the query can always be optimized. Okay, but the only difference is the performance gain is not going to be there when you have very small size data. When you have huge data, that's when the performance gain is really significant, and it can easily recognize and appreciate the differences between a poorly written query and a good and optimized query. Now let's make this a little bit more interesting and see how we can improve this with the help of this dbForge. Okay. All right. So we started with this, and we have this. Let's look at the query plan. So by clicking on this query profiling mode, we can automatically go into the profiling mode. By the time I run this again, we'll be profiling this automatically. Okay. So this is running in query plan mode, and this is going to generate the execution plan. Turn on pagination mode to switch. Yeah, this is just nothing to worry about. I'll just maybe close this. It's really unnecessary. Yeah, you can see this. So we have 3.30272 as the execution time. It takes about 3 seconds to generate the plan diagram, and 328 milliseconds to run the entire query. Okay. Yeah. So that's fine. I think that's okay. We can always improve this much later. I'll just close this. I'll just close this. The second one here. I'll just delete this. All right. So the second one, I'm going to now write a little bit optimized version of this query, which is with the CT, which is the common table expression. I'm going to start with sales data, as simple as that. Simple sales data as then in here, I'm going to do a simple select. The select is going to be from fact internet sales. Fact internet sales. Fact internet sales. Okay. And so I'll just select a couple of columns from there. So sales amount. And I have order date key, product key, and finally I have the customer key. Okay. Okay, good. So that will be my sales data. So let's get in the date data, right? As this. Okay. And that will be select. Let's get the date key from there. Date key from dim date. Okay. That's straightforward. The next one is the product. We can just minimize this. So we have the product data as the product. So we just have the query for the product data written here. So we just have select product key. Let's just add the dim product. Okay, dim product, and it's easy to just get the IntelliSense and help the IntelliSense to get the right suggestions in place. All right. So the final thing is the customer data, and I have this as that. And I can do select customer key. Let me just select that from there. I'll say select from dim customer. Okay. So I prefer the IntelliSense for some reason. Okay. So I have the customer key and I have the last name. Okay. And with this, the suggestion is automatic. And I have the 3, not the 4. I have the 3, well, that will be 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the 4 CTs here. So the next thing is to write the query to join them together. So I'm just going to have select from, what are we selecting from? We have the sales data, isn't it? So that will be SD. And we're going to be joining just like we joined earlier. So we're going to be joining, maybe I can just easily copy that, but I'll just type it data as DD on the SD dot order date key equals to DD dot date key. Simple as that. Then the next one is the products. Yeah, just like we had in the dim product. So we have products data, and that will be PD on PD dot. I'm going to be joining on product key, of course, because what am I joining with in this case? Sales data and so let's use it the other way. So we have uniforms SD dot product key equals to PD dot product key. Good. Then the next one will be the customer data. Okay, customer data. CD on SD, so customer key equals to CD dot customer key. Okay. With this, let's check if the performance improved a little bit. Maybe I can just read. Yeah. So let's get in the right columns. I almost forgot that. So SD is the sales amount. Sales amount. The next one will be DD dot date key. The next one is PD dot English product name, and then we have CD dot last name. Okay, last name. Okay, finally, so that's all about that. So let's run this and see what the performance gain looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight this. Before we do that, let's expand this back, and I'll just scroll this up a little bit. Okay, I'll just highlight this, and up to the top I'll just highlight this and run. Okay, by clicking on the execute and see what the profiling looks like. Okay, so there's a slight improvement, but there isn't any significant really improvement. So the first one is starting with this. So it's saying we don't have the missing index in the warning spot, and if you look at this part, we have some improvement, which is 30272, and here is 3.3076. Okay, so and if you look at this, the execution looks like it was 328, and this is now 210 milliseconds. And these are some of the statistics that were used when running this particular query. So this is a really good one to use, and you can easily compare them by easily clicking on each of them. If you press the control key and then you click on each of them, you can easily look at and compare the two. One sec. I click on this and click on this. You can easily compare the two results side by side and see which one performed better or worse. So if I select this one as the first one and this as the second one, you can see some of them use more memory, some of them use lesser, some of them are faster and stuff like that. Okay. So like this one, this is 3076, and this was the older one, which is the older one that I ran. Okay, good. So the next one will be to now write to check this and see if there's any suggestions for improvement. If you look at the map that we have here, which is the execution plan, I started with the hash match, not hash map, and we have some clustered index here that have not been implemented. And so based on this, it's telling us that we can look at the warnings: missing index, impact 404725, create non-clustered index with this name on fact internet sales. Other date key include the product key, customer key, and the sales amount. Okay, so let's make that happen and make things more interesting. I'll just minimize this. So the easiest way to do this would be to write a query to do that. So I'll just have create non-clustered index. Okay, and the name is going to be IDX fact internet sales underscore order date key. So that will be the index name. So I'm going to be creating this on fact internet sales, and I'm going to be putting the order date key into the picture, order date key, and I'll be including as suggested, I'll be including the product key, the customer key, as well as the sales amount. Good. All right, so this will just work just fine, but let's make things a little bit more interesting by using the GUI. So if you run this on the terminal, you'll be good to go. But if you go back to the fact internet sales, go to the indexes section and right click on this and create a new non-clustered index. You'll be good to go by selecting some of these properties on the GUI, clicking and pointing and clicking if you like that. But if you prefer the terminal version, you can just write the script. So the index column in this case is going to be the order date key as suggested, and some of the included columns will be the product key, then the next one will be customer key, and then the sales amount. Yeah, so and the good thing is you can easily type this to complete it, sales amount. Okay, and the yellow part is telling you it's auto completing that by searching. Okay, so once that is done, you can see the non-clustered is created here, and the name is this, then we can just apply this. So by the way, if you want to check this, you can also apply some of the options. Fragmentation is not needed, to be honest, and the usage statistics is just when you use it, and the regular data space is by default, everything default. So if you change anything here, you might run into some challenges. I mean, maybe to primary or something, you can complain of storage or whatever. Yeah. So with that, I just apply the changes and see what that looks like. Good. So the changes have been applied. If I refresh this part and then see what I have the IDX fat internet sales. And yeah, I intentionally added the other date key if you like. So I'll just leave this as it is. And going back to the profiling mode, I'll just expand this a little bit. And based on what we had the initial one without the CTE. This is the one with the CTE. Now, the third one is the one that has the CTE as well as the index that has been added to it. So let's see and compare the three and see what the result of the three looks like. Okay. So now I'm going to just go back here, highlight this again without the clustered part, and I'll run this because I still have my query profiling mode on. I'll run this again. And voila, the error message, well, the warning is gone. Not really an error message. The warning is gone, and it looks like some improvement has been made. So we had the initial one as 328 milliseconds, 210 milliseconds for the second one, and the last one is 207 milliseconds. Okay. And the timing is reducing. So this is 3.30272, 3.300076, and the last one is 2.78478. So yeah, so there's an improvement in there. Now this improvement is going to be significant when you have more data. So the data in my fact internet sales is not that big. Let's check it out. How many data do we have? What's the size of the records in there? So if I just do select count of star from this particular guy and I run this, what's the size of the data there? No, I'm looking at the data, not the... Yeah, I'll turn off the profiling mode and run this again. Okay, I have 60,000 records. Yeah, this is significant, but it's not that big, to be honest. So when you, well, it's relative if you ask me. So if you have like a 1 million row, of course, then the profiling would make more sense because the data in here is going to make more sense in terms of the gap. The gap will make more sense. You have, some significant performance gain and all that. Another cool feature that I would like us to discuss is the master detail browser. Now, if you go to the dbForge and if you go to the database design, I believe that will be in the data analysis section. Now you can do the browsing of the related tables, and this gives you access to everything about your tables. It gives you the detailed browsing information. So this master detail browser gives you detailed insight into your related database data. So if you have a table that is connected to multiple tables, like the foreign key relationships, many to one, one to many, and stuff like that, you can easily visualize them in this master detail browser. Let me show you how it looks like and how I work with it. Okay. Now in the master detail browser, I'll just click on this. Let's say we are working with the fact internet sales because this is the bone of contention that we've been working with for some time now. This has quite a number of foreign keys and a couple of static columns here that are not linked to anything because it's a fact table, of course. Now let's start with the product key. Because I have the master, I'm not seeing anything here. Now let's get in the relationship, which is the child in this case. Well, you can call it the parent as well. Okay, so we start with the product. So let's drag in product. If you're dragging product, and automatically this is linking to the product key because I have a product key in this guy that is linking to this as a foreign key. Okay, we have the order date key. You'll see the difference in this case. This gets interesting because with the order date key, I have 3 more relationships with the date field, with the date table, and which are the order date key, due date key, and the ship date key. Now we have the customer key as well. So that means we need to drag in the customer. So let's bring that in. So if I drag in the customer, that comes into the picture and it looks like this. I have the dim customer linking directly to the customer key on this guy. So that's beautiful. Now the next one will be the customer key. Maybe I should just move this a little bit to the front. I'll just drag it, and it's easily just, you can play around with this, of course. And you have the promotion. So I'll have the dim promotion into the picture. Lovely. And we have the currency as well. Dim currency. I think you get a picture. Yeah. And the final thing we're going to be working with in this case will be the sales territory. Sales territory. I'll just get the sales territory. Where are you? Sales territory. And if you want to add additional things, you can do that. I mean, just to be on the same page, you can easily just visualize everything based on the relationships that you have between your master and the detail relationship in this case. So so that's how you can work with this guy. Now you can also work with the browse data. Okay, so if you browse the data, of course, you can easily view what's going on in here. You can switch back to the design view to see what that looks like, and you can change any of this to the master. So let's say you have something like this, you want to switch this to the master. All you just have to do is set this as master, and the rest becomes the detail. But that's not what we're focusing on in this case. So let's click on the fact internet sales and set it back to master. Now you can send this back to the query, and you can see how the query looks like. So you see the select, and you can start selecting some of this, and the columns are going to be here: the joins, the where clause, the group by, having order by. This is a very robust application, and you can eventually see how that looks like in this query. Okay, so the query window helps you to visualize that in the query window, and you can easily just visualize this on the design view. Okay. Now let's talk about something that is very related to this design that you just talked about in the master detail view, which is the database design. This is one of the things that, as a data engineer or as a data analyst, or wherever it is that you are interested in the DB, whether you're a DB administrator as well, you need to be grounded in the database design, so you know what it looks like, and this will give you information on how you can optimize your database as well. Some of the tables are and the relationships and how you can design them. Even before implementing them, you can easily just do that with dbForge as well. So you don't need extra tool, extra solution to do that. Everything is inbuilt as part of the package. So let's see what that looks like by the time we switch over to dbForge and design a new one. So I'm just going to save this. Well, maybe I can just discard them. Yeah, I don't really need this. This is just for demo purpose. So I'll just discard this and no. And yeah, I can just close this up. Close the query as well. Not interested. Thank you. Now we have the database design tab here. So in the database design tab, you can create a new database design. And here you have similar layout where you can play around with the UI and some of the things that you want to design. So in this case, if you want to design a new table, you want to create a new table, you can have your table, the constraints, the indexes. So let's create let's call it customer table, and we call it a custom CID with customer ID to make it make sense. Customer ID, customer, let's say first name to make things easier. First name, and let's say last name. Okay. Now let's add some constraints to this. Some of the constraints that you can add, if you want to add a check constraint, foreign constraint, primary or the unique key. So let's say the customer ID is unique. So the column in this case, if you come over here to the left, the constraint column here is customer ID, and it's going to be not null. Okay. So that will be unique as well. I'll just make this not null. Okay. So if I make it I need to change the ID, so I'll just change the ID from it should be integer, isn't it? Yeah, so it's integer now. I just add not null and it's the identity, so that will give me the primary key. Well, well, it increases by default rather, not the primary key. The primary key is here, so this thing changes it to primary key, but this identity means it can increase by 1 every time. Okay, now the constraint is automatically added to this. You can see we have the primary key, and the key is also here as well. So you can have some of the indexes as well. So let's say you want to add a clustered, no, well, let's say we had a clustered index. I don't know, let's leave it at that. The clustered index is the first name sorted by sorted ascending order. So you have some of the options, the storage. I'll leave it at that. Okay, and there's no need for triggers or any other thing. I'll just leave it at that and apply the changes. Okay, so it cannot create more than one clustered. Drop the existing PK customer ID, yeah, before you create another one. So you need to first remove this one. We can add this later, but for now, let's remove this index, and just apply the changes, and we're good to go. Now, once we have this index, you can now create an additional one. Let's say you want to create a clustered index on the first name. Go to the general and then the first name here. Let's say you want to do that, and then let's leave it ascending order. You can apply this. It says cannot create more than one cluster. Well, we need to make this non-clustered. Okay, because we already have one clustered. Yeah? So some of the included columns is the first name and the last name. Okay, last name is the included column. I'll just leave it at that, as simple as that. Nothing too fancy. And I'll click on apply, and I have some of the indexes. So if you go back to the UI, you can see some of this, the way the UI looks like now. You have the constraints, you have the indexes, and you can easily relate this to as many tables as possible. If you create a new one and you want to have a foreign key relationship, you can keep doing that eventually. And by the time you're done, you can, convert that eventually. Okay. Now, just for your information, by the time you create this, automatically it gets created in whatever DB that you select. So we are selecting the master, and that's why you're seeing it in the master section, because in the database here, master is selected. So that's why you are seeing the customer here. And if you have something like the product, which was, I think I created this when I was playing around, you have something like this here as well. So let's say if you want to have maybe some relationship between the first name and the name here, you can have the maybe one-to-one relationship, many-to-one relationship, or the foreign key in this case. So I'll just click apply this. It says no primary keys, yeah, because I didn't have that as the reference. So this is wrong. Just make this primary key and apply the changes. Just close that, and I'll just drag the character here, the first name, into the name, and boom, and I can easily just apply the changes. So it's first name to the name, and that's it. Yeah, apply changes. It says primary key, yeah, because you don't have foreign key, product name, cannot create index. See previous error. Yeah, so I have a foreign key relationship between the customer ID to the product ID. Well, this is a bad example. Well, but I mean, it's just to show the possibility of this. And if you double click on this, you can see what the relationship looks like. So this is the foreign key customer product, and it's connecting on customer ID to the product ID. Yeah, so but that doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't necessarily mean to be customer ID to the product ID. I mean, this is just like an example in this use case. Maybe this is not a very good example, but I mean, it's just to show you how you can easily just create foreign key relationships, and some of the relationships that you have, which is the maybe many-to-one, one-to-one, and stuff like that. Okay, and I think that would be all. So what I'm going to do eventually is, if you want to export this as well, that's the standard de facto. If you want to, let's say, export the customer, for instance, you can just quickly click on the export data, and it asks you which format you want to export into, and you're good to go. Before we wrap up this video, it is important to understand that I already have some resources that are packaged for you, so you can go through in your leisure time and catch up on some of these features that we discussed in this video. I'm going to just switch over to the DevArt website. and we can discuss them in detail. So the query profiler has this documentation, and you can see additional documentation on the platform. You can get these details. I'm going to drop all the links in the description. Also, you can get it on the DevArt website in the resources features sections, and you'll be able to see all of the features that are available on dbForge Studio. All of these are available out of the box, and these are on top of the existing SSMS functionalities. So for example, if you are looking at a profiler, that would be in the SQL query profiler. And this is the details. If you want to learn more about query profiler, you go in here and you see more details about query profiler, some of the weight statistics, some bottlenecks that you have, some plan tree, some of the things that were not discussed in detail are also here as well for you to get your hands dirty on. And also, interestingly, you can see something like a TSQL debugger, query profiler, data compiler, a data comparer, and then you have the data generator, documenter, which is where you document complex queries with just clicking the mouse, and all of the clauses and stuff will be automatically done for you. I have the data export and the import. I'm going to drop the link to this in the description of this video for your use. But dbForge is something you want to use, so don't forget, by the time you want to check out and try this out, you can get some discount by using the code in the description below, and you can also use this for free of charge during the trial period. So don't forget to take advantage of that. And if you have any questions, don't forget to drop them in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you out with any challenge you have. And if you need to book some consultation with some of the DevArt, you can drop me a comment and I'll link you up with the right person, or you go into the website directly and contact sales. They'll be more than happy to respond very fast, maybe faster than I could. So don't forget to do that. And if you need any help, just reach out. I'll be more than happy to help you. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.